Okay, you all, I am live. Come in, hit that like and hit that share button. I want to address this real quick. I want to make this quick for me to address this and show you all the evidence will be under 1 hour. So I'm hoping to get it in under an hour. And I'm going to address this as simple as I can because it's a lot of knowledge that I know that I don't share publicly. But I had someone to comment on my video about Israel, and they made a comment that, well, I thought we were supposed to love the Muslims, et cetera, et cetera, when I didn't even mention anything about Muslims in the video, right? I did not mention anything about Muslim, and I know it's people that's just um, trying to get a reaction out of me. So this is the response to that. And I'm going to show you all also the Martin Luther King that the media does not want you to know about, right? So you all come in, hit that like and share button. I'm going to show you all some clips of the MLK, the Martin Luther King Jr., when he began to change his message, shift his paradigm to his last sermons stating that we're coming to Washington to get our checks. I'm going to talk about the MLK. I'm going to show you clips of Martin Luther King that says, let's strike Coca-Cola. Let's take our money out the banks, right? Let's build our own businesses, insurance companies, et cetera, et cetera. And why am I doing this at this time? Because this is the biggest wealth transfer that this generation has ever experienced, number one. And number two, I'm going to put some or test the concepts because I have conversations with family members at time, right? That suggest that, you know, black people um, are not doing their part economically. And sometimes that is true, right? We don't. That suggests that, hey, slavery was over 400 years ago in 1419. We're in 2023, and it's time to stop using slavery as an excuse. Now, my viewpoint on that is it's not an excuse, but it is definitely an explanation. Right. See, we live in a capitalistic society, right? We live in a capitalistic society. And when you are denied capitalism in a capitalistic world or society, slavery definitely laid the foundation so that people in the black and brown community would make it more difficult and harder to get funding, right? Let's start back when the slaves were free. The slaves were free and they put their money into Freedmen's Bank, right? Freedmen's Bank that's known today as Wells Fargo. Let me pull that up, right? Freedman Bank is known today as Wells Fargo. And so they put this money, the Freedmen Savings Banks and the ex-slaves, and it came out that in 1865, right, Freedmen's, and they strategically named the bank Freedmen's Bank because the slaves were free. And so they want to give them the paradigm, the perception that, hey, if you put, we are supporting your freedom, right? And so the former slaves put their money in here, Freedmen's Bank, 1865, to provide a place to safely store their money. This is evidence that you can just Google. And just waking up and saw this from the start. Okay, let's invite more and people in. Thank you. And hit that like and share button. But let's start from here because if you don't know the history, you don't know the present. And you definitely won't know the present future, right? So the Freedmen's Trust Bank, U.S. Congress, chartered in 1865, to provide a place for former slaves to safely store their money after several successful years in which freedmen deposited more. Listen, this is in 1865, more than $57 million in 1865. 57 million. And then this bank went on in 1874, 9 years later, to collapse. As a result of mismanagement of funds, the bank failure not only robbed many African Americans of their savings, but also had a severe psychological impact on them, causing many to give up hopes and dreams that went along with their savings and bringing about a general distrust of the financial institutions for years to come. Robbed many African Americans. And so when I have people that send me text messages and say, well, Martin Luther King said that it's hard for a bootless man to pull himself up by his own bootstraps. And I get messages say, well, we should have boots by now. That's why I started Credit Repair years ago. Because many people in the Black and brown community didn't understand the concept of capital, getting capital and using it to gain assets and capitalism. And they didn't understand the concept of redlining in communities, right? They didn't understand the effects that redlining had on not getting capital. Again, I'm going to emphasize this. If you cannot get capital in a capitalism society or world, you are already behind the 8 ball. You're set up for failure. And don't think Black Wall Street was just in Oklahoma. No, Blacks tried many times to open up their own entrepreneurship, their own businesses that was destructed, that was burnt down in parallel. I must go ahead and say this before the 10-minute mark, right? Many times in organized religious institutions, many people in the Black and brown community do not know that they're Israelites until it comes to the teaching of Malachi chapter 3, where the prophet Malachi is prophesying to the children of Israel. And then people in the Black and brown community say, see, we are the true Israelites. We're supposed to tithe. That was to Israel. But now we have the war that's going on in Israel. And that's why I have the jersey number 11 hanging. If you can see the name, it has Kyrie Irving's name on it. This is why Kyrie Irving came out months ago talking about who the true Hebrew Israelites was. And many people in the Black and brown community don't even know, right? And things like West Africa. Yes, we are different than the ancient Egyptians, right? When I say we, I'm talking about the Africans that were shipped in by force for slavery. So we are not the ancient Egyptians. No, we're not. You are, many of that heritage are Hebrew Israelites. This comes from West Africa, not North Africa, not Eastern Africa, West Africa. Now, I made this on my Facebook page about West Africa, and this is why West Africa is often oppressed and suppressed financially, right? Because this is where the slaves come from. This is where we get the Niger, where the word nigger was derived from, right? All you got to do is add a G. That's why you were called niggers when you was brought to America, because Niger, right, it's an African nation, and they are depriving them of funds, $2 billion per year of development assistance to the World Bank. And this is where the true Israelites reside. Niger niggers were called. And the funds, and you can see the black smoke in the background. And so many people don't know who they are, the Hebrew Israelites. And this is why the Kyrie Irving thing became a big deal, right? And this is why the war is happening now more than ever, as Putin and Russia, I mean, was showing an image of, show you all this, a black Jesus just some time ago. And now you have Putin and Russia that's pretty much, well, not pretty much, but that does worship the image of God as it is written in Revelation, because they know and understand the truth. Now, many people say, well, it does not matter what the color of Jesus was. And then I question, well, if it does not matter, then why was the color changed, right?
Show the world that Jesus is a black man.
Okay, so let's get into that. Now, this is why, right? This is the message of Martin Luther King that many people in the Black and brown community never heard of, that they don't share, as much. And this is on Dr. King. This is one of his messages on reparations, right? Reparations. Many people have heard the Martin Luther King on, anti-protest and slavery, but let me share with you Martin Luther King message shortly before he was assassinated, right? Was different. It was totally different. Now, I'm not giving you this information just so you can say, oh yeah, you see, we know this. And now I'm giving this information so you can prepare yourself properly. And so that as knowing who you are, right, and who you should be in this world or matrix, whatever you want to call it, that you can have the knowledge to prepare yourself successfully and not living in poverty and paycheck to paycheck, but stand up as your rights and what your heritage that the Bible gives you and tells you that you are the Hebrew Israelites, the true Israelites. So, man, Russia, okay. See something about Putin. So this is Martin Luther King. Let's play this message.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
So that's the message that Martin Luther King began to share, right? That's when he started looking at the discrepancy, the redlining. How can you survive in a capitalistic economy and world when you are denied capitalism? Let's also listen to this. Martin Luther King on 1968, Black economics, Coca-Cola boycott. You know, things that you probably won't be taught in school that you should take it upon yourself to learn and to share with your children and your children's children and pass on generational knowledge. Because if you don't understand your past, I promise you, you won't know your future. If you don't understand the art of war, if you don't understand the tactics of the enemy, right? Because it's time out for middle class Americans and people in the black and brown community just to use capital to get things that are depreciating assets. For you to go beyond just getting a home to reside in and a luxury, what you decline it or define as a luxury vehicle. It's for time out to use your capitalism to get assets, to get things with real value so you can pass on generational wealth that the Bible talks about and declares. To stop looking rich by brand clothes and items, and there's nothing wrong with those things in their place. But this is when a lot of organizations like Dave Ramsey teaches to get debt free and get out of debt. Yeah, consumer debt. Yeah, you should. Things that loses its intrinsic value, but they don't tell you the power of capitalism and how to use debt to get assets and reversal, because they don't want you to know. They want you to think that it is a curse to be in debt. And if it is, if you are paying more interest out than you're receiving in. But it's two sides of the coin, two sides of that token. All right, so let's listen to this Martin Luther King and message on economics to the black and brown community.
We don't have to argue with anybody. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. And we come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you.
Let me pause right there. How many of y'all have heard this Martin Luther King message? How many of you have heard this Martin Luther King message of withdrawing economic support? How many have heard this teaching in history books? How many have heard this speech aired? When he went away from let's march in the streets to now we have black dollars, let's fight with our dollars. And cents with a CENT. Right? All right, let's listen on.
So as a result of this, we're asking you tonight to go out and tell your neighbors not to buy Coca-Cola in Memphis. Go by and tell them not to buy Seal Test milk. Tell them not to buy what is all the bread, Wonder Bread. And what is other bread come to Jesse? Tell them not to buy Hart's bread. As Jesse Jackson has said, up to now, only the garbage men have been feeling pain. Now we must kind of redistribute the pain. We are choosing these companies because they have been fair in their hiring policies, and we are choosing them because they can begin the process of saying they are going to support the needs and the rights of these men who are on strike. And then they can move on downtown and tell Mayor Loeb to do what is right. Now, not only that, we've got to strengthen black institutions. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money in Tri-State Bank.
I definitely want you to listen closely to this. It's calling unto them. Take their money out of banks downtown, deposit their money to another bank account. And in fact, this video has, I don't know how, it doesn't have a minute. I'll see when I decrease it. You don't hear this message widespread, right?
Now, not only that, we've got to strengthen black institutions. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money in Tri-State Bank. We want a bank-in movement in Memphis. Go by the Savings and Loan Association. I'm not asking you something that we don't do ourselves in SCLC. Judge Hooks and others will tell you that we have an account here in the Savings and Loan Association from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We are telling you to follow what we are doing. Put your money there. You have 6 or 7 black insurance companies here in the city of Memphis. Take out your insurance there. We want to have an insurance in. Now, these are some practical things that we can do. We begin the process of building a great economic base. And at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. I ask you to follow through here. Now let me say, as I move to my conclusion, that we've got to give ourselves to this struggle until the end. Nothing would be more tragic than to stop at this point in Memphis. We've got to see it through. When we have our march, you need to be there. If it means leaving work, if it means leaving school, be there. Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together.
So this was Martin's message, the economic strike, Black economic empowerment, April 3rd, 1968. Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together. Now, let me explain to you why I'm sharing this information. I'm not interested in the people who just like to get information so they can go to the church or the barber shop or beautician and seem like the smartest person in the room. I'm not interested in those people. I'm not interested in giving this information for people who like to debate for just the sake of debating. I'm not interested in people who like to have knowledge but don't like to apply it. No, I'm not. I'm not. That's not what this is for. I'm sharing this with you because of my many conversations with people that say, hey, it's time to stop using slavery as an excuse. And as I always say, it's not an excuse, but it's definitely an explanation. It definitely has ripple effects. And if it's not an excuse, then why are we afraid to teach it? Why are we afraid to teach the Black and brown community that you need to stop swiping your credit cards on things that depreciate in value in the churches, on name brand clothing, on vehicles, just to have a resident house versus being a landlord and owning your house? Why is it that we don't know the history of the Black dollars or the history of our Black leaders that was teaching Black economic empowerment or the history of ourselves in the Bible? See, the slave masters thought that introducing the Bible to slaves, right, people who could not read, would help them in complying with certain scriptures like love your master, do good to those who despitefully misuse them. But they didn't know that the coming of the knowledge that the same Bible would also share information and revelation about who we really were, where we come from, Niger, right? West Africa. Why was our melatonin? Why were we made slaves in the first place? The power of our melatonin, and as we move to technology and fourth industrial revolution, they're using melatonin in computers and technology. And they need the melanin again, just like they needed the melanin for slavery, because slaves were the only one that can work hours, or Black and brown people can work hours in the fields under the sun at high noon and still can be sweating, glistening off their bodies, and they could endure the heat. And their DNA was not made up to do that. And so in the same book that they thought was going to oppress us, it gave revelation, if taught and read correctly, of who we are and where we come from and what God in Revelation really looked like. You know, wool hair, feet of bronze. Oftentimes people talk about Good Times in the Florida Evans episode where she didn't want Black Jesus hanging on the wall. But you have to know who funded Good Times, the people that wanted that message out, right? And another short clip from Martin Luther King that, you know, many people would take it that Martin Luther King was all about just, can I find the civil rights movement and his approach versus Malcolm X and nonviolence. Well, this is a 60 minutes, a riot of language that has been unheard from Martin Luther King. Hello, Karen from Pennsylvania. Thank you for tuning in. Definitely food for thought. And I always tell people, once you have knowledge, then what are you going to do with it? Are you going to apply it? Right, so let's listen in on this.
3 minutes. Rewind.
Now, what I'm saying is this. I would like for all of us to believe in nonviolence, but I'm here to say tonight that if every Negro in the United States turns against nonviolence, I'm going to stand up as a lone voice and say this is the wrong way.
Okay, that clip there, it said, I would like for everybody to believe in nonviolence, but if every Negro Let me just play it again. And the United States believe that, I would say that this is the wrong way. The Martin Luther King that you probably never heard of. You know, the information that you probably never heard of, right?
60 minutes. Rewind.
Now, what I'm saying is this. I would like for all of us to believe in nonviolence, but I'm here to say tonight that if every Negro in the United States turns against nonviolence, I'm going to stand up as a lone voice and say this is the wrong way.
Now, one more person that I want you to hear, and then I'm ending. Dr. Frederick Price on race, reparations, religion, racism. And I like to say this on racism, like racism is anyone that has the power to oppress you. You know, oftentimes the terminology of racism and prejudice are confused. Prejudice is just someone don't like you for surface level, but they don't have the power to keep you oppressed, right? Racism is totally different. Someone that has the financial power to keep you oppressed. And again, who's the true Israel that the Bible is talking about? You know, where do they come from? Why have they been oppressed? Why have they been oppressed mentally, spiritually, and economically? What is it about this race that is the most hated against, and why? Why don't, you know, the Bible, Socrates' famous quote is, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, Socrates. Why has this race been really deprived of its history and to know themselves and the power that they hold? And so many people comment on my videos about, well, this is the end times, it's the end of the times, right? Well, first of all, as I stated on my last live stream, nowhere in the Bible is the word rapture mentioned at all. It does talk about 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Paul wrote to the Thessalonian church about mid-air meeting with Christ, meeting with God, and being transformed in the twinkling of an eye. Other scriptures do reference to Christ coming back to the earth in all his power and gloriness and splendidness. However, Revelation also quotes that there will be a new heaven and new earth, never to be just done away with. And so you have these people that have been religiously taught that someone is going to just save you. And, you know, they reference the end times as far as children against children, all of the murders and killings going on. Ezekiel 38, the war against Israel, not knowing the true Israelites at all. And in the second coming, it's going to be a judgment against how God's people, the true Israelites, Niger, again, derived from, that's why they were called niggers when brought to America, because they came from West Africa, how they were treated. Genesis 15:13 talks about the 400 years of slavery. But then Moses committed act, right? 14:19, 20:19, marked 400 years, and Moses committed an act, and 30 more years was added. But the people that oppress these people, Black and brown community, will be judged in the second coming of Christ. But it does not talk about a new heaven and new earth. It's bigger than just going through a Great Depression again, because people don't want to suffer financially, but they don't want to engage in financial education and financial literacy. Many people don't want to learn how to use their credit to get assets. They don't want to invest in financial education, financial literacy. They don't want to sit down and have conversation where they are taught. They want a leader like a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X or someone to put their blood and life on the line for them for things that they're not willing to do for themselves. And this has to stop in the Black and brown community. It just has to stop. Either you're going to make up your mind that you're going to do it for yourself, because it is far time out for leaders to be putting their life and blood on the line for a group of people who don't want to comply and to learn how to get out of poverty and bondage. And yes, it is strategically planned, but now that you come into the knowledge, what are you going to do differently? Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. After the conversation is had, what actions are you going to take to do things differently? After the knowledge is revealed, after you have a revelation of who you are and whose you are, what are you going to do? All right, let's listen in on Dr. Frederick K.C. Price, another powerful man who has since transitioned, and his perspective on 1997, race, religion, and racism.
Then they've worked this thing on us where we can't work together, won't work together. They have purposely, insidiously planted the distrust of one black for another, because they know that if we ever get together, if we ever become one, we will become dangerous. Instead of relying on the white man, we'll rely upon our own abilities and our own resources. But as long as they can keep us dependent upon them, then we never come into our own. Professor Stamp points out this fact, and I quote, "Here then was the way to produce the perfect slave. Accustom him to rigid discipline, demand from him unconditional submission, impress upon him his innate inferiority, develop in him a paralyzing fear of white men, train him to adopt the master's code of good behavior, and instill in him a sense of complete dependence." Many of us, we won't even accept anything from another black man until the white man has given his approval. We have been the most loyal people to this nation than any of the immigrants that ever came here. We have fought in every one of America's war and then got treated like dogs after it. And then the nation has the gall to decide whether or not we should apologize to them. Maybe we ought to declare war on them, and then maybe that'll get them to apologize. Listen, you took a group of people, brought them from their own native land, stripped them of their character, stripped them of their heritage, even stripped them of their family ties, purposely so that they couldn't get into agreement with each other. Took the father, grabbed him and sent him north, as it were. Took the wife, sent her south. Took the kids, sent them west. Took the other kids, sent them east. Split them up. Christian people did this. So-called Christian. Claimed to be Christian. Couldn't have been Christian. Couldn't have known God. They could not know God and do that. Then you kept them in bondage and from 1619 to 1865. Worked them till they dropped dead. Because
And those are the other days I didn't go over, 1619 to 1865. That's slavery days, before the 1419. 1619 to 1865.
there's plenty more of them in Africa, so just kill these. You don't maintain. You don't keep them healthy. You don't keep them up. Just let them die and then get some more. That's all. Just purchase some more. You got money, go buy some more. And that's what they did. And then some black folk got the nerve to talk about, we shouldn't talk about reparations. We should let it go. Poor, simple-minded fool. Japanese people who lived here in The United States, Southern California area, they shipped them out, put them in internment camps during the Second World War with Japan. After the war was over, through negotiations, they received every person $20,000 each and a formal apology. And our government, our nation, is wondering whether or not they're deciding whether or not they should apologize for enslaving blacks in America. Now think about this. Now this is what I'm talking about. See, this nation is wrong. I'm sorry. This nation is wrong. Now watch this. Listen, here's why they're wrong. Here's why they're wrong. They won't even apologize to the best citizens that they've ever had. Now listen. It wasn't black Africans from Nigeria that flew over Pearl Harbor on December the 7th and declared war on the United States of America. Approximately 3,000 plus Americans were killed by the Japanese on the day of Pearl Harbor when Japan declared war on the United States of America. And then after that, they gave them $20,000 apiece and apology for declaring war on them. And black people have been the most loyal people to the United States. They have never, ever declared war on the United States.
$20,000 just for declaring war. Japanese, America rewarded. Even Obama's administration gave, let's see if I can put it up, for Holocaust survivors. During his administration, $12 million for assistance. $12 million. So when you ask me about black reparations, don't come to me and just, well, we're not gonna know what to do with the money. I will. Not all black people are screwed. Not all black people don't have financial education. Not all blacks just squander their money away on steaks and seafood, like when they got PPP loans and stimulus and more televisions in the home. Not all black people are wired that way or taught that way. Some, yes, but not all. $12 million assistance to Holocaust survivors. It was disbursed over 5 years. The initiative launched in 2013 by then Joe Biden, who was the vice president, needs of survivors of the United States, a quarter of whom lived below the poverty line. Now, this is combined with matching private funds, approximately $2.5 million per year over 5 years, will support $4.1 million in programming annually for organizations that even help the Holocaust survivors. Private funds, $2.5 million per year over 5 years, will support $4.1 million programming annually just for the organizations that help them. And you have some black people that say blacks don't deserve reparations, or that black people should still don't have bootstraps. When you see that we're denied and redlining most capital in the capitalism world. Now, for other people that may comment to me and say, well, no, the only Black Wall Street we had was in Oklahoma. Not true again. The other Black Wall Streets, you need to Google this. Right? This June 1st, 1921, white rioters looted and burned all Black Greenwood neighborhood. This was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma, the most known because the number of successful businesses and wealthy Black inhabitants. Right? Leaving more than 8,000 people homeless. And vast majority of people were killed. Estimates range from 80 to 300. And they deputized every able-bodied white man and handed them weapons from the city's armories. Wow. No official death total, but historians agree that the count was around 250 people. because many African Americans were buried in mass graves while others fled the city. Other Black Wall Streets that were destroyed. North Carolina, right? Mutual Life Insurance became the richest Black-owned company during the time and still have assets over $200 million. Early 1900s, the Haiti was the first Black community to become fully self-sufficient. North Carolina's Central University was founded in Haiti in 1910, became the first liberal arts HBCU to be funded in 1925. So I know the print is small. That's why I'm reading to you. This is in Richmond, Virginia. Other Black Wall Streets. Predominantly Black community. It was called the birthplace of Black capitalism because the area was home to so many Black-owned banks, insurance company, other investment groups. So don't argue with me that all Black people squander their money away in their mismanagement. No, we have some Black people that have financial education, financial literacy. You also have the Harlem of the South, hosting names such as Ella Fitzgerald's, Duke Ellington's. In 1910, St. Luke Penny Savings Bank opened in Jackson Ward, the first Black woman to found a bank in the United States. This, a plan to build federal housing decimated the area after only 25 of the neighborhood's displaced families were allowed to live in 297 units that replaced 200 homes that were torn down. This is in 1950s. The historic area, when it voted to run a section of interstate through the neighborhood in 1950s. Another Black Wall Street, the 4th Avenue District, Birmingham, Alabama, also known as Little Harlem, boosted retail shops, half a dozen hotels and more. The buildings were designed by Black architects and built by Black construction company, including the 6-story structure by Black-owned penny savings banks. 60% of the city's Black-owned banks were owned by Blacks in the Black business district. The area is also home to Birmingham's famous civil rights struggle. 74% Black. Integration, it eventually dispersed Black businesses throughout the system. Another place in Oklahoma, Booley, Oklahoma, 1932. Booley was founded in 1903 by Creek Nation, Indian Territory, known as Oklahoma, called the finest Black town in the world by Booker T. Washington. The city boasted more than 4,000 residents, African-American residents, called the wealthiest Black town in the country. Booley declined during the Great Depression and World War II, but the city still exists. Every year it hosts one of the largest and most popular Black rodeos. It was more than just one Black Wall Street. It was many efforts of Black Americans coming together, collaborating together. Don't believe we always fight against one another and kill each other to bring in Black enterprise and Black businesses. Many Black strong men, leaders, many Black people that understand Black economics. They don't go out and party their money away. They use capitalism to get assets, that pass on generational wealth, that are visionaries. And so what's the next wealth movement? Well, I've been, telling everyone, Black, brown, Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, European, whatever, it's crypto, the greatest wealth transfer of all times. The greatest wealth transfer in all time. Also, no World War III. It is happening for such a time as this. Fears are growing in the United States. FBI warns of an attack. True Israelites. This is why Kyrie Irving came out and was attacked so much. Number 11 is signs of chaos and confusion, but also a wealth transfer. Invasion of Israel, the other Israel, has triggered a reaction from local government, which turns affects security worldwide. The United States fears that supporters of the Palestine terrorist organization will try to carry out an attack on American soil. People, this is the beginning of World War III. This is the beginning of the financial wealth shift. Now, last scripture, I'm ending on Revelation 2:9. I know thou works in tribulation and poverty. This is, but it says you are rich. You're supposed to be rich. It's talking to the Hebrew Israelites here. And I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews. It tells you right there that there are some people that blaspheme and saying that they are Jews and they're not. And I'm not saying it, the Bible says it, and are not. The Bible says, I know them which say they're Jews, and they are not, but the synagogue of Satan. So, hey, just want to give you this live streams, 50 minutes. You can prepare. I have my PDF booklet, because as I shared with people, the only cryptocurrencies that's going to be of value to have in the next bull run, as we have Bitcoin happening in 2024, will be those cryptos that are legalized, right? Will be led by cryptos that follow the law. Getting these pump and dump cryptos is over for that. You need to know which cryptocurrencies follow the law. So, I put that in my PDF booklet. The website is CashN, the letter N, the number 2, crypto.com. Why Kyrie Irving, number 11, brought out the message, Hebrew Israelites. This was an article today. US dollar outperforms all 11 BRICS currency and gold. US dollar, where soon all countries that have been suppressed and oppressed from this financial currency system will be free and released and have their own digital currencies. And there'll be one world economic system. One world economic system. And this is the foundation of blockchain technology, AI, artificial intelligence, that will replace the jobs of many people. Will Smith and Jada Smith, all these distractions come, but this is why, Will Smith is Revelation. It shows you through Hollywood movies, iRobot, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, especially The Matrix in the 1999. It's written by a Black woman. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, where I can't think of his movies, but where it's a battle between robots and humans. All of these foretold is what we're entering into. When God said he will have revenge on those who mistreated the true Hebrew Israelites. Right? So I'm signing out, you all. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, I hope that you got the revelation on this and you take action. This is not a conversational piece. And I definitely would like for you to hit the thumbs up, like, and share the video. Also, the tax laws are changing next year. You can visit my website, milliemoves.com, to help you get those tax shelters. It's going to affect the middle class grossly in the increases of taxation. So understanding the power of a home-based business that gives you 475 tax deductions, in which you can keep more of the money, your gross, that you're making. Do not have revelation without action. And even though many of our leaders were assassinated and they shed blood, right? You can honor our ancestors, honor their message. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Dr. Frederick, so many more people, by hearing their message and applying it, and not just be hearers only. The Bible talks about hearers of the word, but you have to be doers of the word as well. The Bible also says it's better not to know a thing than to know a thing and not apply it and not do it. Because now the blood is on your hands for how your life, the outcome of your life of this financial wealth transfer and your family. Now that responsibility is shifted on you once you hear the message. So you can take action or you can do nothing. The choice is yours. But again, Charles Dickens' poems, the best of times are coming for some and the worst of times for others. These are the best of times and the worst of times. Prepare people and get positioned. The biggest financial wealth transfer. Your rights, what our ancestors fought for. You know, the famous quote is, I freed thousands of slaves, but I could have freed 1,000 more people had they known they're slaves. And many people don't understand how the financial system is keeping them enslaved. Take action and gain your freedom. And take this serious. Take this war serious. Because many people, unfortunately, are going to suffer financially, spiritually, and physically from it. So take it serious. You all have a great remaining of your day. Thank you for tuning in. Queen out.